see what we can do. All right, Boker Tov, everyone. Let's say actually, we started to do this. We start our learning now for this class by saying MODEH ANI as a way to sort of set the frame for our time, and that will also be the subject matter of today's class. So let's say this one-liner that comes from our tradition way back in the prayer book. Modeh ani lefanecha melech chai v'kayam shechazarta bi nishmati b'chemla rabba emunatecha. I'm grateful to you, or I'm thankful, or I acknowledge you, ruler of sustaining and life-giving and sustaining ruler, that you've returned my soul to me with grace or with compassion. Great is your faith. And that line is going to be what we're going to learn. But first, let's say our bracha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. Of course, I'm having some difficulty with my Zoom, so let me just figure this out here. Why is it not popping up? Okay, here we go. Restore. Here we go. Okay. So Sylvia thought it might be nice for us to look at the very, very first thing you say when you wake up in the morning, namely MODEH ANI. So let me pull up the text itself. I'm going to open up Siddur Ashkenaz, weekday. Why is it like that? Oh, I see. Weekday, Shachari, preparatory prayers, MODEH ANI. Let me screen share. I have a cat that's meowing like a maniac for some reason. I'm not sure why, but he is very animated right now. I can only imagine. Okay, so here's what we just recited. MODEH ANI lefanecha. Can everybody see it? MODEH ANI lefanecha. I give thanks before you, or I acknowledge you. The word modeh, perfect word for us to learn this week because it's from the same word as to give thanks, right? And it's Thanksgiving week. Hoda'ah is thanksgiving. And by the way, I think I've mentioned this before, ironically, the word for turkey in Hebrew is hodu. So the word for turkey is associated with the word for Thanksgiving. Even though there's nothing native to the reason that Thanksgiving and turkey would be related, in our vocabulary, it's become an American thing to eat turkey on Thanksgiving. I don't think that it's logical, but there's no rational explanation. But it happens to be that in Hebrew, the word bridges the gap. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. I am thankful before you. Notice it's not to you, it's before you. It's lifanecha. Before your face, right? To your face. I am thankful to your face, right? Punam is a face. Lifanecha, before you, is usually how we translate that. So let's break this into sections. I give thanks before you. Melech chai v'kayam. So this is the noun, king, who gives life and sustains. Right? Or living and everlasting. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do this. And I'm going to do this. So you can see what is what. And then let's do another language, another color. Let's do a green here. Shehechazarta bi nishmati b'chemla. For you have restored my soul, they say, with mercy. Chemla is sort of a, I don't know, it's a complicated word. And then finally, the last section, let's use black. Rabba emunatecha. Great is your faithfulness. There's not a lot of brilliance or long-standing history. You know, I was kind of curious, but did not have a chance because of how quickly we put this together to find out when this first appears in the prayer book. I do like to refer to this book, which has little bits of information, nothing particularly scholarly, but it is sort of, I mean, not scholarly in the sense of modern scholarship, but it is a nice assemblage of information from time. And it says here, opening words of a prayer recited immediately upon awakening, so that one will be made aware of God. You'll notice, by the way, nowhere in this prayer is God's name actually mentioned. It doesn't say Adonai or Elohim. It just says Melech Chai V'Kayam. And that's very intentional. If you look at the bottom of the screen of what I'm sharing, it says Nitilat Yadayim below. That is the prayer for hand washing. And it is customary that before you... What are you doing over there, kitty? He's really... I have a feeling he's mad at me because for whatever reason. Anyway, we have this tradition that, you know, hand washing is an act of purification. But until you engage in that act of purification, you might not be saying God's name. Now, that works except for the fact that there's this other paragraph, which I think we might as well look at, that's included in the, at least in the Ashkenazi Siddur. I don't know about the Sephardi. I think it is there, but we'll have to look at that, which does mention God's name. But originally, you did not want to say God's name because, you know, I mean, not to be too, rated R here, but you might have awakened with a seminal emission, right? You know, you might have, you're just not considered spiritually clean after you wake up. So you have to go through an act of purification beforehand, before you start saying God's name. And so that's why it's missing here. Any questions or comments up to this point? So you're generating an awareness, and interrupt me if they come up. So you're generating an awareness of God. The short prayer, I offer thanks to you, living and eternal King. I'm now using the translation from this book. For you have mercifully restored my soul within me. Great is your faithfulness. Appears for the first time in the 16th century mystical commentary on the Siddur called Seder Hayom. I don't know what Seder Hayom is. What it says here is it's by Moses ibn Machir of Tzfat, and the first published edition was published in Venice in 1599. So yeah, we're talking 16th century prayer that was added to the prayer book. This is, in other words, it's only 400 years old, 400 years old. Like, we might think that that's a long time, but it's not if you look at Jewish history, right? 400 years before that was the 1200s. I think in our brains, the difference between 1200 and 1600, not that much in our minds. And then, you know, so it is not an old prayer. It is way post Talmudic. We're talking really around the beginning of Jewish mysticism. It hasn't even really begun at this point, but it is there. It does say here, the Jerusalem Talmud cites the initial words MODEH ANI with a different ending to be said for each of the 3 daily services. I guess before I shut this down and look at some of these verses in other parts, like it would be nice to look in the Jerusalem Talmud at this. Let's just try to make sense of this, all the different components. So I give thanks to you, right? So the first thing you do is gratitude, thankfulness. Second is you acknowledge God's name. Think about it. Baruch atah Adonai, right? Eloheinu melech haolam, that formula. Well, this is sort of the Baruch part. Baruch atah, right? And maybe sort of the Adonai. And this is the Adonai, Eloheinu, Melech, ha'olam, right? And then the action. So it's kind of like its own parts of speech. Like, here's the subject, here's the verb, and here's the object of the verb, right? Sort of the parallel to that. I mean, that's just sort of the structure. And we see, even though it's not a Baruch Atah formula, you have an introduction that sort of, it sort of mimics that. So the first two parts are really the same, but you're not actually saying God's name. And then the action. You've returned my soul to me, or you have caused my soul. Literally it is, you have caused my soul to return. Shehechezarta. It's not just return, like to come back, but it's a hefil verb, which means you've caused my soul to return. So I'm giving thanks because if it weren't for you, I wouldn't wake up, right? My soul is my consciousness, and the word nishma, which means soul, or nishama, right, is also connected to the word nishima, which means breath. So you might translate this as blessed, thank you, God, ruler of, everlasting and living and everlasting God, ruler, that you have caused my breath, my life force to return in me. Bechemla. They have it here as with mercy. This one also basically says chamalta, chemla is mercy. And then finally, Rabba emunatecha. Great is your emuna. Now, emuna means faith. It could also mean belief. But in older Hebrew, if you look at this grammatically, and you're not going to necessarily get this if you're in an Orthodox learning group, but the root here is Aleph, Mem, and then it's sort of lost along the way, but, it's also the Nun. Aleph, Mem, Nun, which is Amen. So faithfulness is what, when you say Amen, you're saying, I believe in this. And so faithfulness and belief are really one and the same. So in Hebrew, they're the same. The other thing to know about this word of emunah, I'll write it in script, even though I know not everyone knows script. Is that the root of the word emunah, which means faith or belief, is actually Aleph, Mem, the same as Aleph, Mem, Taf, which means truth. It's hard to see it in there, but the word emet is a strange word. It has, this is actually how you would write it. Some of you taking my Hebrew class know these vowels. We just learned this one, and it's the same as this. But it apparently emet, which means truth. You might have heard the word emes, right? People talk about emes. You should have emes. You should have trust, right? Or truth. And belief and faith are all connected. So great is your faithfulness. So great is your truth. Like, as in your truism, your honesty, your commitment. Great is your belief in my existence. So the last clause is really saying, great is your commitment to me. God, thank you. It's very, I feel so blessed to be in this world. So, it's a throwaway line, but as I think many of you have already heard, maybe all of you, because I talk about it all the time, for 20 years with my kids, driving them to school, we would sing. We would go, I would say, a 1, a 2, a 1, 2, 3, go. MODEH ANI lefanecha, melech chai v'kayam, shechezarta bi nishmati bechemla, Bechemla Rabba emunatecha. And then maybe once a year, I would throw in a different melody. Not very often because I didn't want to confuse my kids. I might as well put it into this video as well. It goes, MODEH ANI lefanecha melech chai v'kayam. MODEH ANI lefanecha melech chai v'kayam. Shechezarta bi nishmati bechemla. Rabba emunatecha. Shechezarta bi nishmati bechemla. Rabba emunatecha. So that's two melodies for this, but it was very important to me as a father to say to my kids that every day that they are on this planet is an opportunity for having joy and blessing and goodness. And we live in a world that sometimes feels kind of depressing, and I wanted them to make sure that they were not waking up sad. Like a very basic antidepressant is to wake up every day and think, okay, this day is my canvas. The world is my oyster. I can make of it what I want, and to recognize both my agency and the beauty of everything around me. So, again, a throwaway line, but a very powerful one. Any questions or comments that you want to bring up? All right, let me say a little bit more, and then I welcome your thoughts. Jerusalem Talmud cites the initial words MODEH ANI with a different ending, so we might take a look at that after we're done looking at this screen. MODEH ANI does not contain any of the divine names and may therefore be recited while still in bed before washing the hands. According to others, if one has not yet washed his hands, it is advisable that he only meditate on the prayer and then say it audibly after washing hands. That's the opinion of Yaakov Emden, who was a, I think, 18th century teacher, European Ashkenazic scholar. A distinction is made when saying the initial word. Oh yeah, I should have mentioned this. Males say MODEH ANI, and females will say MODEH ANI because it's a different language. Siddur Rinat Yisrael, which is sort of the standard modern Orthodox of Israel prayer book from many decades, and the 60s, and it was probably established in the 70s, but it has both MODEH ANI and MODEH ANI. You'll see that on this screen it doesn't even give the female option, but it was a part of the tradition. A slight pause should be made between the words Bechemla and Rabbah. So here we go. It says you should make this distinction. Rabbah and Emunatecha should be said together, as in the verse in Lamentations chapter 3. It says, "They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness." So Rabbah and Emunatecha do have a connection that is found in the Tanakh itself, in the Hebrew Bible. It adds, Sephardic Jewry differs as to its recitation. Jews of Israel, Syria, Egypt, and Turkey say it. Those of Amsterdam and London do not. Little fact check. And then the last thing it says in this book is very young children who are not able to recite the daily prayers are often taught this morning prayer because of its brevity and simplicity. So what does this prayer do for you? What is your experience with, how does this feel to you? I'm going to clear this, and I'd love to just see if we could have, I think I might as well show you also. Here's the prayer for Nitilat Yadayim, which again is this additional thing. How does this prayer feel for you? Does it speak to your emotions, to your needs?
I personally really like it, and I really like, as you highlighted, the very end. God, the creator, the force in the universe, believes in us.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it's powerful. Right. So if you think about it, one of the existential struggles that we have is for a sense of connection. And this prayer is saying God's got your back. So it addresses loneliness. Another, I'm borrowing from the teachings of a guy named Irvin Yalom, who's just a hero of mine. He's an existential psychotherapist. He says there are four concerns. It's like an easy mnemonic, and I'm reading right now his book, Existential Psychotherapy. He says the four concerns that every human has is fear of death, meaning of life, isolation or loneliness, and freedom. And he understands freedom as being, you know, there are challenges that come with freedom, and that's a whole other conversation. But if you think about those, if you believe that those are the four primary concerns that humans have, other people have other views. Freud makes it sexual, others make it material, but, Irvin Yalom, I think, hits it right as an existential teacher that isolation, well, that's being addressed here, right? You're not alone. God has confidence in us, has faith in us, believes in us. Fear of death, well, I woke up. I'm alive. That word chai is here, right? And the idea of shehechazartabi, that my spirit, literally my breath or my soul, however you want to see it, and you really could see this word either way, is being returned to me. So fear of death is being addressed. Loneliness is being addressed. I think that on some level, meaning of life is being addressed, at least if you think of it as, okay, I have another day to make meaning in my life, right? I have another opportunity. Every day I go to sleep, well, there's some sadness because I might not have finished the things that I had hoped to get done, both literally and figuratively. But this drives us forward. It's very mantra-like. To me, this prayer connects me to aspiration, and that's meaning of life kind of thinking. And then the last one is about freedom, and I don't have time to get into that. But what I'm saying is that this prayer is sort of a magical prayer. As pithy as it is, as short as it says a lot.
I think freedom is addressed because we have the freedom to say this prayer.
Well,
I mean,
that's true too.
nobody can take when you wake up in the morning where your mind goes.
Yeah.
Um,
I think the reason I hesitate is that freedom for Yalom is almost a negative. And we have to, that's a longer conversation. I think he's borrowing from Eric Fromm, who understands positive and negative freedom. There's freedom that has to do with not having any structure. And that's actually disconcerting as well. But anyway, that's beyond the context of
That's not
this.
part of this.
Yeah,
I
that's
think.
not, yeah, so it's a little different.
But I think Sylvia's point is well taken that we have the freedom when we wake up to be grateful to God or to whatever it is.
Well,
And
another way to say it, I agree with you, Sylvia and Avital, is by freedom, what it means is that we are not automatons. We are not machines. We actually have more to us, and we can opt in or opt out of thinking. you know, And that is a freedom in a sense. We're not, machines are not free. They're machines. All over LA now there are these Waymos driving around, and you would think that they're alive, but they really are not. They're soulless, And when you think about Invasion of the Body Snatchers, right? That was my coming of age movie. With I remember watching the original and I think the remake with my mom, and the whole idea of body snatchers was horrifying. The zombie, right? Your body is taken over and you're no longer a person. Your
It's your
soul,
fear of death thing.
your soul has been removed, right? You have no soul. You're like sorry for the pun here, but or not pun, but I used to have a bumper sticker that said, "Drum machines have no soul." You're just a drum machine. So you're right. In a way, all four of the principal or primary concerns that are existential concerns are addressed with this one-liner. So we do this with our kids. Anything else that anyone wants to add?
Well, I could just tell back when in my 20s, when I was a new age person, I remember hearing someone speak, and he said, when you wake up in the morning, do you say, and he has 3 words, do you say, "Good morning, God," or do you say, "Good God morning"? And I have carried that with me. It's the same 3 words with and yeah, this is a way of saying, "Good morning, God," instead of, "Oh."
I love that. I've never heard that.
But it's great. I agree.
Yeah.
Well, it's officially 9:30. I so would love to keep going, but I think we just don't have time for it.
Well, we're grateful for you too.
Yeah.
So, and
Thank
all of you
you.
in this group, I can't believe we still are doing this beautiful Tuesday mornings together.
Yes, really, really lovely. And I'll put
agree.
I'll load this online. And maybe we should just look a little bit. I don't think we really ever looked at these morning prayers, did we?
No, we
So,
haven't.
so why don't we, unless there's an objection or something else that you want to do, maybe once we get closer to Hanukkah, we can look at Mao's Tzur and, some of the songs that we sing and what that liturgy is about. But I think that it would be nice for this to be our focal point for the next foreseeable future.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you. Nice
Bye.
to
Have a
see
good day.
everyone.
Thanks. Happy Thanksgiving.
Thanks, everybody. Happy
Happy
Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving.
Hooray, hooray, hooray. Aren't you glad you're not a turkey on this Thanksgiving Day? All right. Thanks.